Now let's talk about roof insulation types. The first insulation type we're going to talk about is polyisocyanurate insulation. This is probably what one would consider the Cadillac of all roof insulations. There's tremendous advantages to polyisocyanurate, or ISO, as it's more commonly called. It has excellent insulating value. It has over an R value of 6 per inch. R value is the resistance to thermal drift from the building. It's a closed cell product, meaning that it doesn't saturate easily in terms of getting wet. Okay? The big downside to ISO is that it's expensive compared to other insulation types. However, with its R value, you can get a higher R value per inch than pretty much any other roofing insulation type on the market. The second item we're going to talk about is wood fiberboard insulation. Wood fiberboard has great compressive strength. It's fairly inexpensive, especially compared to ISO, and it's great for what we consider recover applications, where you have one existing roof and you want to overlay that existing roof with a new roof system. This works well as a cover board to separate the old roof from the new roof and create a nice clean surface in order to apply the second roof. The downside is if it's not coated, as you'll see, this looks black, wood fiberboard. The fiberboard is actually brown, but if it's not coated on all 6 sides, and they come in 4x8 sheets, then it is susceptible to water infiltration and can turn to really mush after a period of time. So it's not great in terms of that, and has very little R value in comparison to some of the other products. Its R value per inch is less than 3, so it's less than half of what you get with ISO. The third thing we're going to talk about is Densdek, or gypsum board. Densdek is more of a trade name, so you hear that in the marketplace, but you'll hear it more in terms of either Secure Rock or gypsum board, or its trade name Densdek. Densdek is great in terms of fire resistancy. We talked about roof deck types, so if you have a wood deck that you want to apply a new roof over and you want to achieve a Class A fire rating, one of the easiest ways to do that is to use a Densdek type product or a gypsum-based product in order to achieve that Class A fire rating. So it's great in terms of that. It also works well because it has great compressive strength. It even has a tougher compressive strength than wood fiberboard or polyisocyanurate. So if you're looking for that added protection on your roof, you'll see a lot of folks, if they have a real busy area on the roof where there's a lot of activity, they may install Densdek around there because it's a little bit added protection on their roof. The final type of insulation that we're going to talk about is EPS insulation. EPS stands for extruded polystyrene, which would be a denser board, or expanded polystyrene, which looks very similar to this coffee cup that I'm holding right now. The benefits to the EPS, expanded polystyrene, is it has great R value, maybe not as good as ISO, but it has an R value of 4 to 5 per inch, but it's less expensive than ISO, and it also is great for creating tapered systems. When I talk about a tapered roof insulation, it means it's sloped to create slope in the roof so that water drains appropriately off the roof. Okay? The R value varies from 4 to really around 5 based on the density of the insulation that's created for the EPS. Okay? So one of the downsides to it is it has poor compressive strength. So it's a lot easier to penetrate that roof and create more indentions as opposed to Densdek, fiberboard, or even ISO. Although if you get a higher density EPS, that is a big advantage because it does have much more and a much better compressive strength. The 4 real major benefits of roof insulation, it can greatly reduce, the biggest thing is it can greatly reduce the energy costs in a building. more than anything else. Everyone talks about black roofs and white roofs and reflectivity and all that type of stuff. Really, the biggest advantage to insulation is it can greatly reduce the energy costs in a building. It can also prevent condensation from occurring on the interior of a building as well by adjusting the hot and cold from the outside, the external temperature versus the internal temperature of the building. And reduces the temperature variation, and then that also helps with expansion and contraction issues as it relates to building, so building movement, so it can minimize that as well. The other thing it does, and the main thing it does from a roofing standpoint, is it provides an acceptable substrate for roofing membrane over a roof deck or other irregular surfaces. So those are the major benefits of roof insulation.